Right on time, yeah.
Hey, right on time, right on time.
It's a
Good
new
morning, good
day,
morning, good morning. It's a new
July
day,
11th, 7/11.
July 11th. Yes, yes, it's
That's
a new
Tony.
day. Yeah, yeah. I see. I'm already in the 26 fever, right, with my red,
Oh
white, and
yeah,
blue.
we'll
I'm
talk
getting,
about 26 a
yeah,
little bit. Um,
yeah, okay.
and give a plug to the activities here in the US, and we hope there's a lot going on the
There's
home
a
front
lot
as
going
well.
on the home front as
So
well. Yes,
um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So how's your week? How's it going?
The week has been very, very good. Last last Friday we did a memorial for mommy. 1 year marked 1 year of her passing. Family holding together, coming through out of this, and friends, loved ones came together. Small, private. Um, those who could make it, they showed up. We had a great time. Testimonies, talked about her and stuff like that, and it was
Nice.
moving and all of that. Yes, 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 at the house, and we had food and drinks and stuff like that. So just time to kind of fellowship and remember. So now instead of January 1st being our new year, July 3rd now is our new year. That's what I told all the girls. July 3rd is our new year. That's when we celebrate New Year, because every July 3rd marks a whole new year of how we this new life that we have with our mommy, and how we persevere, move on, go forward, and stay focused, stay together, because all we have is each other, and each other is all we have. So,
Yeah.
but it was a good time. It was a good time, celebratory, reflecting, and just being strong. God's good, all His goodness, His love, compassion kept us all together, and we're moving forward. We're moving forward.
For me,
As mommy used to always tell me, Daddy, life goes on.
yeah,
Life
it
goes on.
does.
Life
That's the
goes on.
reality.
That's just the reality. And how you go on, how you keep on, how you move on, how you live on through life is a testimony of your faith, your confidence, your love in God, and in the Word of God. So, I mean, it's a good time. That's all I can say. It's a new time. So
Wonderful.
I'm excited. I'm excited about the new beginnings.
Oh, praise God. For me, I had a little ball. I was at the
Okay.
Essence Festival over
Yes,
the weekend,
yes, yes,
last
yes.
weekend,
Last weekend. Yes, that's exactly
and
right. You were down here
with some
in the you,
with some
yeah.
friends. You see me jamming, right?
I can see you jamming all in white. There you go.
Yeah.
The roof is
So
on fire. We don't need no
oh
water
no,
here.
it was live. It was after the one
Yeah.
of the concerts, where we were just
Okay.
chilling. I think the Sunday night concert was all white. So
Hmm.
yeah, we had a
Okay,
lot of
cool.
fun. And that's what you got to do sometimes. You can't just
Hey, hey, hey.
not have fun. It's part of life.
It's
The
part
same
of
way,
life. That's what makes life. That's
losses
what makes
come,
life.
successes come. So we got to
Hmm.
enjoy when we can. But yeah,
That's
want to say
exactly
good
right.
morning to all our viewers today, listeners all over the country. I don't know who we have with us on radio today, but you know the deal. We got people in Kakata. We got
Yeah,
people.
yeah, we're relaying out of Kakata Magidi there, Kakata FM. Yes, we're
Yes,
relaying there. Yes.
yeah. So we welcome all the listeners. We say hello to you. We hope your Saturday is going well. Today's talk is kind of not on the beaten path, but it also refers to situation in the beaten path. So
Hmm.
we touch on two key topics: the $79 billion printing program that the central bank is pushing, and I believe the House of Representatives has authorized at this point. We probably
Hmm.
need a Senate confirmation now and then the presidential signature. Then we'll touch on the Ivory Coast. The Ivory Coast
Hmm.
has been able to raise, well, not raise yet, but get commitments for
Commitment, yeah, pledges, yeah.
6 to 2030 development plan, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's impressive what they have done. You know, they went out, um, build the different relationships, um,
Hmm.
establish themselves, and we'll look at some of the reasons why they were successful what they're doing, and how
That's
can that
exactly right.
apply to what we want to do in Liberia.
Hmm.
As of now, uh, you know, off the top of my head, I don't know what our development plan is, but we have, I've looked at raw estimates like $4 to $5 billion to support this uh, AAID, um, the arrest agenda for inclusive development.
Hmm.
The numbers out there, I don't know, but how do we fund it? We're nearly 3 years into it, and
Hmm.
still kind of up in the air in terms of all the development stuff. But we know a lot of stuff is going on. So we'll just look to what Aricos has done, what's kind
And
of
what can
fine
we
our
and what
analysis.
can we learn from it? And what can we learn from it?
Exactly, exactly. So yes, again, welcome to the show. This is Isaac Valatukpa with my co-host, Al Phillips. So Al, You know, when people talk about printing money, some bad memories seem to come to Liberians, right? Like, it's the
You
16
can
billion.
only you can only go off of what has happened before and project based on that. That's all you can do.
And that's what people have to understand, right? So the first thing people will tell you, oh my man, are they eating money show? The people come in, do different map up again. The people come in do this, the people come in do that. So but we gotta look at it in the perspective of what they're actually trying to do, whether they would do it,
Hmm.
how they would do it, and then what the lawmakers are looking at, what the
Hmm.
expectations is, and what some of the gaps could be, right? So we know that the House has kind of approved and authorized the CBL to print because officially by legislation,
By law, by law.
yeah, by law, they can't just print it automatically. It has to be approved
Hmm.
by the legislature. So the House has approved it now. We need a Senate concurrence. I personally don't know what the Senate is, but they are looking at multiple tranches, trying to print nearly 15 billion Liberian dollars in 2026. They're bringing in a new denomination. Supposedly, the rest of the money they will phase in. The production cost is nearly about $12 million. And this is being done by a foreign printer with a lead time of up to 24 months that we make those arrangements. Um, so the amount of that money is probably about 35 to 38% of the current money supply. So basically, we'll be adding another 35% of what we currently have. Okay. So the central bank is saying, look, there are four primary reasons why we need to print this money, right? There's
Okay.
mutilated notes. And
Okay.
we know the last time the replacement system that they had, we didn't really replace the notes because there was still mutilated notes on the market. Significant amount of mutilated notes were on the market. And the folks from Crow did a report, and that report, showed that yes, about 15.5 billion actually came in. What happened to the other 0.5 billion? Maybe it went in people's pocket. We don't know. But
Leakage.
there are always leakage when it comes to our own money situation. Um, but the internal processes of the central bank, uh,
Hmm.
whether it was the vault process or whether it was the process of moving money or how they did
Yes. Custody
the
transfer. Custody
yeah,
transfer. Custody
all of that,
transfer.
were not clear, right? So then the other thing now
Hmm.
is that what they're trying to do in this particular case, um, replace the money, right? And also look at a cash economy modernization program. So how they modernize is a whole different thing. But they also want to maintain a buffer, right? They want to have,
Hmm.
you know, like if you got your own business or your own personal situation, there are
Hmm.
shocks that come in the economy. So you want to have that little nest egg, that little savings on the side. So basically,
Hmm.
what the central bank is saying. They want to have a buffer because from my analysis, they are printing about 50% more than what they need. So
You
they're
see.
claiming that's a buffer against demand shocks. And we'll see, right? And then we are supposed to be under an extended credit facility program, I think, with the IMF. So what they're
I
saying is
know.
they want to keep some reserve, start supporting the reserve accumulation, right? Because there's certain benchmarks that the IMF,
Mhm.
one of those programs that you got to have reserve for.
You gotta
So,
have. Mhm.
yeah. So the House is saying, okay, we approve that. We approve the volume, but not the printing.
Mhm.
So that authorization to print and inject,
Mhm.
that's something that's very vital, right? What time do you actually
Mhm.
pay for those notes to come in? What time do you actually print them? And when
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
inject it into the economy
Check
and
them into the yeah,
infusion, infusion of capital or infusion of new money in the economy, how is it done? So those are some of the things we need to talk about and see
Mhm.
how we can break it down for the regular person to understand, because the first thought is what the snake that bit them before, right? And now
Yeah, yeah,
they,
yeah.
they want to lizard, even though this one is what nearly six times because I was
Yeah.
16 billion the last time, right? So 5 times at 80, so nearly, so you look at 79, that just about nearly 5 times. So 5 times what the size of that previous experience was. And this first tranche is supposed to be nearly 15 billion. So what experiences we had then, what have we learned from them? What is this whole uh, uh, two-way interaction, right? Because we've been talking about digitization, we've been talking,
Mhm.
electronic currency, you know,
Mhm.
talking about how can we reduce these transactions and be able to monitor it better. Because in a pure cash economy that we have, government has
Mhm.
limited, control over taxation really to a large extent. And there's a lack of a credit system. All of these things without digitalization, without national identification,
Mhm.
they're not possible. So
Yeah,
where yeah,
so let me let's break it down as you said. Let's take it one slice at a time, almost like a pizza, right? So, you know, you are a project management specialist, right? The who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how. Okay. So let's forget about it. Well, let's put aside the bad previous experience from when this whole process was done before. Let's be objective. Let's be positive about this. So let's clearly define the why. Why is this being done? Why, why is it the administrative branch of government that is seeking to get this done? Is it the legislative branch, which, like you clearly have articulated, who has to give the authorization, and that is a request coming from the central bank, who oversees all of the monetary policies in conjunction with the uh, the Ministry of Finance, which is on the administrative side of government. Okay, and then, as you rightly said, we've got a bunch of commitments, obligations, terms and conditions with credit draw facility with the IMF and things like that. But there was something you mentioned about digitization in our economy,
right,
which is very, very important. If you look at the Liberian economy right now across all the political subdivisions, you'll see that we have a almost, like you use the word, a cash-based economy, which is based on like transactions. We have a transactional based economy. You go to the marketplace, it's transactions. From the time the folk bring the charcoal, it's transaction. The wholesaler bring the charcoal to sell. The retailer pay for it right there, get it on the market tables. People from home come to buy. It's all transactions all the way across. So if you look at that economy, across, let's go back to the word that we started off this this season of business talking with, which is the ecosystem. How does this new introduction of printed notes at the scheduled time, when it will be phased in, the buffer, how will those things affect? the various aspects of the ecosystem. How will they affect it? Because those things have to be taken into consideration. If you look at our economy right now, we talked about digitization, mobile money, whatever it is, um, mobile money, uh, uh, Western Union, MoneyGram, Sendwave. 90% of 99% of all of that, those transactionary processes as it
Mhm.
relates to financial are controlled and managed by two foreign-owned telecom companies in our economy, MTN and Orange. So if you talk about digitization, then where are the investments going to be made as it relates to the Liberia Telecommunication Corporation, the telco? What role is the telco going to play in this process so that we as a country, we as people, we as a nation, our own telecom company and infrastructure can also play a role in the digitization process and benefit for some of the profitability that's taking place. I always ask people, what are the biggest banks in Liberia? People talk about UBA, this, GT Bank, Echo Bank. I said, no, you missed it. The two biggest banks in Liberia are Orange and MTN. They are the two biggest financial institutions in the entire country. They hold millions of dollars in mobile money accounts and they transact that business for a fee. So when you look at it from that perspective of what percentage is the government of Liberia benefiting, and if the telco who played a role in the digitization process to transform the economy and benefit from that to help our tax base, you follow what I'm saying? Because there are
But
so many
we need to
different
you need to be specific when you say play a role. What kind of role are you expecting Telco to play? Is it an infrastructure role? Is it a policy role?
infrastructure.
Because I would think LTA is more the policy influencer in this case of digitization. The Ministry of Posts and Telecom also
Is
has a
regulatory, yeah.
responsibility, in this. So it's about clarifying what this
Yes.
quote
Okay.
unquote
So
ecosystem is, in that
very good. Okay.
particular area.
Very good. Very good. So Ministry of Post and Telecom is a separate entity. That's policy. Ministry of Post and Telecom. That's a separate entity. The regulatory part of the Ministry of Post and Telecom, as we knew it before, was extracted, and now it becomes the LTA, which is the regulatory side of that whole sector. They issue licenses for Wi-Fi, for ISPs, blah blah blah, mobile telecoms, and all those things. All of those things are regulated by and licenses are assigned by the Liberia Telecommunication Authority, LTA. Libtelco, the Liberia Telecommunication Corporation, is no different than Orange, MTN, or Lone Star. Okay, they're just one of the operators. It just so happened that they are the people's network. They are the network infrastructure by, for, and of the people of Liberia. They're the national operator. So if we want them to, and like we talk about the guy, what's his name from Kana Cash, who wants to, do his own fintech. There are many other Liberians who want to do fintech in the Liberian market. But the question now becomes on whose infrastructure can they run their software, run their app, and things like that. That's where the telco plays a very important role because it will be easier for a Liberian to bring that solution onto the telco where they can enhance the telco's operability, revenue stream, profitability, and expand and so forth and so on. Because if you bring Kana Cash, which is a competitor to mobile money, those stars not going to give you access. Orange is not going to give you access. No, they're not going to do it. So that's why Libtelco, Liberia Telecommunication Corporation, is so important for the government to understand that investment in that infrastructure to expand it, to build it, to make it reach all different political subdivisions is so important. It's so critical. to support the digitization process so that Liberians can play a role, we can create more jobs, expand our tax base, and be more effective from that aspect of, what they talked about, printing the new monies and bringing it, because digitization was a part of the reason why. Am I correct? It was one of the reasons why. If you put digitization 100% on MTN and Orange, then they alone will what? They will reap the profits of it. They will reap the profits that will come around from it. And this is something that we as Liberians have to understand. We need to, there's so many Liberians who want to develop their apps that will compete with MTN mobile money, compete with Orange mobile money, but you, they're not going to allow you to run those apps on their infrastructure because you're in direct competition with them. And that's why the telco is so critical, so vital, and so important. That's why government needs to understand this, that the telecom infrastructures are major part of the ecosystem, so that once this new cash is infused into the economy, it can also benefit all aspects of the country, not just one specific area. Go ahead. I see you thinking. Yes, your wheels.
I'm really thinking, right? Because we got these institutions, we got the LTA, we got the telco, and we got Post and Telecom. But what we can't forget is we have the central bank. That's the payment layer. All payments will go through the central bank, right? And whatever digitization tool they develop, as the payment switch or anything like that. So, like you said, the Post and Telecom is all policy, right? We respect that I think 2007 Act gave them the right to produce the National Telecommunications and ICT policy and all of that. They have been engaged too with the international institutions, because right now there's a major project out there called WARDIP. It's a $50 million infrastructure project, right? Covering broadband expansion, cybersecurity, digital governance, digital entrepreneurship, e-commerce, the digital payment system. And at the same time, there's the LIFT project that has some, the credit system.
Sorry, this thing that started again, so I have to reset. Please look at me over there quickly to bring me back in there. This thing that's
okay. So yeah, so with those situations existing in the ecosystem of the telecommunication space, sometimes it's blurry, right? It's not clear whether the LT is only just a regulator or is also trying to be an operational center of gravity, simply because they have more access to funding than probably the telco, who should be the operator. So there's some gray area there, and I think the government and all the people concerned need to really work together to coordinate, because we have the opportunity for this broadband. Hopefully we can, in the different show we can get when we start talking sector by sector, we can bring some experts who can specifically focus on each of these individual sectors, and hopefully we'll start that next week. But they're at a high level right now. We have these institutions, we have this the $50 million sitting over there. Hopefully we strengthen these different components of developing our IT sector, developing our infrastructure, and even encouraging the Liberianization process in all of these different activities that go on in the telecommunication sector, in the technology sector, in all these different projects that underlie the WARDIP, the LIFT, the great projects, all these big time projects that are millions of dollars, $40-50 million, that a lot of times Liberians feel that we are being frozen out of the whole system, the whole equation. So are you there? Sorry, folks. I think Akina is still having some issues. So I wait until he messages me before I add him to the show. So yeah, so it happens that all these things are going on. So it's not clear who owns the telecom sector or this whole digitalization, but it is a government thing. So these institutions of government need to find a way that they can work together to improve this whole idea that we're talking about. Because digitalization has an impact on printing, and at the same time, printing has an impact on digitization. Okay. So the central bank, one of the key things they said is there's a demand right now, right? Um, they projected the cash demand, the growth of transactions in the country, the need to replace all these mutilated notes, and then the need for them to have a buffer. But again, like I said, I still think, and I don't want to break down the quantitative analysis of that whole thing and bore people, but that 79 billion, I think the actual need to include those three things, the growth of transaction. Our economy is growing at 5%, right? So we can look at that and say that's the growth rate, or just even expand it more and say the transaction growth will are a little bit more than that. Then the replacement need, if we look at the mutilated notes, what percentage of the actual notes are there, plus the buffer that we need over the next 15, 20 years. I don't think that's up to 79 billion, but that's a separate discussion, right? So the printing of that money, how does it affect the digital adoption that needs to happen? The central bank should be moving away from paper currency. You know, we need more mobile money activity. We need more digitalization on um, everything, from payrolls, from transactions between people, and all of that, where the handling of cash is limited. I mean, over the I don't know when I really handled cash here in the US in I don't know how many years. Like I used to, carry that in my pocket and all that kind of stuff. It's not happening. But one of the good things they're doing is introducing that $2,000 note. I think that high denomination rate will help to. I think Akina is back. Let me see. Ooh, where is my man? Are you there? You want to turn your camera
Yeah,
on?
yeah, my camera is on. I don't know. My camera is on. I don't know why this thing is doing this. I don't know
I
why
don't
it's
know why
doing
it's
this.
showing you black. I hope that people can see you. But if your voice is
Okay,
coming through, that should be good enough.
okay, don't worry. Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
have you
so
have you have you
you,
been
you,
following?
you I've been following. I've been following. You talked about the broadband infrastructure projects that are coming for investment in broadband infrastructure. Are those broadband infrastructure capex investments? Are they for the telco? Because are they for?
Yeah, part is for the telco, because a major part of that is building a data center. So the telco definitely benefits, but also it's about expanding the broadband, right? Supposedly we have the thing right offshore, but bringing it onshore or extending it to laying the cable for different areas has been a challenge. A lot of areas are network deprived. So part of that is how do they, make all these connections and expand the access, to the internet for more Liberians.
Yeah,
But yeah,
but at the you see, but these things, I don't like to look at these things from the perspective.
folks, he's having a real, real challenge. So we'll go back to discussing the central bank 79 on the billion dollars, Liberian dollars infusion into the economy, which is supposed to be phased. You're going to start with nearly, I think, 14.7 billion to start with. But I was referencing the high denomination note, right? So that volume of transactions will decrease, because once you have this $2,000 note now, instead of having, 10, well, we don't have a $200 note, we got $100. So instead of having, um, 200, $10 or 20, $100, uh, okay, now we got the man, we got his face and everything, so that's good.
Yes.
Yeah. So as I was saying, for the $2,000 note, I mean,
Mhm, mhm.
over the next 3 years with where we are, that's fine. But how are we moving into digitalization? That's what's critical. Then the mutilated notes, we've been having this thing um, for the longest time. So the quality of the note, I don't know whether we have a higher hand-to-hand circulation in Liberia than other countries, but our note deteriorates so fast. They just, or whether it's the cheap product, the cheap paper we're buying to
And there
make
you
our.
go. There you go. There
So
you go.
those are things that hopefully the central bank can look at.
But
Anytime,
but
yeah, go ahead.
if you look at it from their perspective, Abbas, if you look at it from this perspective, I think if I'm going to take the sales, marketing, and business development perspective on this, right? And say
Uh-huh.
if you want to drive digitization as one of the key pillars for industrialization in this ecosystem, and you want to bring in these new nodes, and part of the reasons why you're bringing it in is also digitization. Because if you increase digitization, right, on one side of the curve, right? Then you will what? You will reduce mutilation of notes because increase in digitization reduces the what?
No
The
question.
the hand. That's exactly right. So that's my point. Then there needs to be a strategic plan in place, right? With marketing, with advertising, and then investment in the telecom infrastructure so that because mobile money is in every political subdivision across the country today, you know, thanks to thanks to the capex investment of Orange, Cellcom first, and the acquisition of Orange of Cellcom, and then MTN infrastructure. MTN and Orange have vastly, greatly invested in mobile telecom infrastructure in all the political subdivisions, all the county seats of government, the first, the second, the third largest towns and cities in all of these counties, because they see that it's not just the mobile data profitability, it's not the voice data profitability, but it's the mobile transactions. The fees on that, they make a tremendous amount of money from that. And as a direct result, a tremendous amount of our private jobs are being created within that mobile telecom ecosystem. The scratch card boys, the mobile money changers. I mean, you name it, and the list goes on. The wholesalers, the retailers, and all of that kind of stuff. So how we feed these new printed notes into such a system, I'm just advocating that Liptelco needs to be a part of that process, and its capex investments needs to be done in the mobile telecom infrastructure of Liptelco, so that we too, as a country, as a people, as a nation, can benefit from that almost equal to what MTN and Orange are benefiting from, and they can be part of that transformation process in the digitization process and reducing the hand-to-hand note transaction and then increasing digitization. You see, so I think there should be a plan on short, medium, long-term plan. Marketing, advertising needs to play in that, and then there should be a strategy as to how this can be carried out. And Lone Star and Orion are already there. That's what they're doing. But then how do we bring Liptelco along with it to support digitization, reduction in mutilated notes, and increasing so that we as a country can have a more transactional economy based on digitization, mobile money, and ease of commerce across all uh,
And part of that
so
is the if telco establishing itself as a corporation. Part of that is how are they
and
spending?
selling itself
What
and
are they
selling
doing?
itself and selling itself and selling itself. How can you be a mobile telecom company in a developing country and not be profitable and not make money? How is it possible? How is
Because
it possible?
they don't mark the well that's why you have to look at what they're doing operationally, and that's where a lot of people say there are gaps. But that's up to the president to fill that gap. We
To
can't
fill that
dictate
gap. Yeah.
what he does, but if there's a leadership gap there or a vision gap
Things.
that not executing what the mandate is and not
Mhm.
utilizing its capabilities in the market, or maximizing what their potential can be, then maybe the president should look at making a change. Because I mean, if you ask people, a lot of people don't even know what Liptelco is, so uh, they know what Orange is, they know what Lone Star is,
Mhm.
but to the extent that they can expand their footprint in the market and be able to do what they need to do, they are supposed to be where all government institutions store their data. What are they doing with the data center? How does it look? What is the current state? And not, I don't want to be mean, so I won't show the images. But if you look at that structure, probably people will say no data center should be there, right? The roof is busted. We know we did an area survey of that area the other day using our drones. I can't show the picture.
It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder.
Yes. What are people doing?
And one more thing to highlight. You mentioned the president's own what is it? AID, right?
The arrest agenda.
The arrest agenda, right? Telecommunication is part of that agenda. There's a pillar in there for telecommunications. There's a pillar in there for telecommunications and technology. There's a pillar in there also for energy and electricity and infrastructure. So, I mean, how are you going to bring in new nodes into an economy, into an ecosystem, and the metrics, the KPIs that you are setting? You mentioned it earlier, right? You want these things, there's a date to print, there's a date to approve, there's a date to print, there's a date to bring the cash in, and then there's a date and time of how much you're going to infuse in the economy. All of these things are all part of a simultaneous equation that you have to work to make sure. I would just keep it where it is. I would deal with my voice today. To keep it where it is, so that it continuously move to produce the results for transformation, industrialization, job creation, and economic expansion. All of these things are interconnected and interwoven.
Yes. And even one other aspect we look at the cost and the fact that printing money is basically importing. It's an imported good, right?
It's an imported good.
Physical LD abroad. And they say the estimated cost right now is nearly $12 million, right?
There you go.
You got to add shipping, you got to add insurance, you got to include your vault logistics, and all the other little stuff that goes on around, the printing and the mobilization of those monies. So a digital payment infrastructure, if we had that like fully established, it converts that import bill into something domestic, right? We have a one-time capital expenditure of the digital system, and now people are using something. So when we talk about import substitution, that is an aspect of import substitution that's supposed to happen too. So our currency, how we look at it, when we be talking about these potential, AAID, the arrest agenda for inclusive development, and some of the key things in there, that is an aspect that we have to look at as well. So it's not just go print money, but it's all the attenuating circumstances around printing money and how it affects the economy. Like we say, the economy is an ecosystem. So what happens in one area affects another area, and we have to look at things in that way. We can't look at things in a silo or in a vacuum anymore. It has to be about the entire country and how we look at these things.
You bring up a very important point, right? So we're talking about this money printing, right? In a positive way, not in a derogatory way, in a very positive, way. So the question again, like we talked about last week and the week before last, is the mindset there? Is the new level of thinking, a new way of thinking there? Was the AID, the Agenda for Inclusive Development, was it just a, as we were saying, Liberia for show? Was it just a document for show? Was it just something to say we too can bring a document out to say that we're doing development? Because if is it just something for these 6 years, and then when the next 6 years, or when these 6 years are over, when somebody else comes in, throw that into the shredder, and then let's create our.
That's one of the biggest problem in the country. The development plan is not legislated. That's one of the biggest problems. Everybody come to do their own thing. There's no real continuity, except when something is, people can benefit off what the other person was doing before. then they continue it, like, some of these concessions or arrangements and stuff like that. But other than that, there's no legislative development plan where we all say collectively, yes, we can have different philosophy when it comes to
Mhm.
governance and stuff, right? But the
Mhm.
bottom line is this is
Yes,
our development priority. We
we
do
cannot
our
compromise on it. Yes,
electric
exactly right.
grid.
Mhm. Mhm. We build our telecom infrastructure. We build our roads and our bridges. We build our airports, our seaports. These are things that we're not willing to compromise on because they have a direct effect on growth, economic growth, economic expansion, job creation. They help in terms of attracting foreign and domestic investment and diaspora investment into different parts of the country. It opens up the country. This is not a party-led mindset. It must be a way of thinking, and we cannot compromise on those aspects. I mean, it cannot be one party that invests in the power grid. Everyone that should be a key part of our short, medium, and long-term development agenda because it supports everything else we want to do. You see. So, the AID, was it just something for this administration? Was it something that they're truly committed to? Was the money printing power, how will the money printing in a positive way affect the AID? And things like that. How will it affect it? I mean, that's why, again, like you said, the ecosystem, we've got to look at this from the ecosystem mindset. How will this new money affect and what aspects of the ecosystem will it affect? What will it affect? You made mention about the concessionaires. Those guys come in as private corporations. They have a 3, 5, 7, 10, 20 year agenda. Yeah, it is. Firestone started off with Harvey Firestone. Now it's a dynasty. They've had their long term plan, and here it is. Nothing has shifted. Nothing has shifted. This year makes them what 100 years in the Republic of Liberia. The market has changed. Competition in the market has changed globally. They've been acquired by Bristol, but yet and still, their long-term policy has not shifted in any way, shape, or form. They had their targets, their objectives, and they had to maintain it. Why can't we learn from these things and adapt accordingly? You see, that's my only question. So maybe as we move on, and in the coming weeks and stuff, like we can probably bring somebody from the telco, maybe the managing director can come on and talk about why the stagnancy, what role are they playing in the digitization process, which is going to be very key for us. What role are they playing in terms of broadband connectivity across the country? Because I mean,
Right.
these are very important things. Yeah,
So
go
we've
on.
reached to that point where we're taking a break
Mhm.
now. As we
Mhm.
say, we highlight one little business. Today,
Mhm.
we want to highlight, I believe it's Yondet. That's the business we're going to look at now. Yondet LLC, and it's by St. Clarence Avery. He is his music business primarily that we're looking at now. So let me see
Okay.
if I can share the screen and share some information about where he's
Who
at.
is he? Who is he? Who is he? A young Liberian, no.
He's not young. He's
Okay.
younger than us probably, but he's not young.
So
But
what are you trying
he
to tell me,
writes
Alba,
a
that we are
lot. He's
old?
a, he's a social media influencer. Um,
Okay.
he's how should I say it? No, contact window. Let's yeah. So he does DJ. He's doing this streaming on all these different platforms. You can listen to him
Okay.
on Spotify, um, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon.
Mm.
And he wants people to follow him, to share his stuff. So we telling our people out there, right? If you know of a business that wants a little plug, we are willing to do that, to advertise them, to let people see them see what they're doing and stuff like that. So we just play
Good.
a snippet of his music, so people can see the kind of mix he does and stuff like that. So this is what he shared.
Good. DJ Avery, here we go.
This one girl, her name is Suzanne. She's my one and only, but she doesn't know. I'm ashamed to ask her, ashamed to talk to her. Susanna is my woman, she will be my wife. When I find the courage, I will ask her to be my girl.
The man, stop it there. So as nice as it is, check him out, check out his platform. Like he said, he's on Spotify, he's on Apple Music, he's on YouTube. DJ Avery, all these streaming. So if you like Susanna, I must say I'm shaking my head at the music.
Well, that's good.
I'm about Nali, already my wife, so I don't know what to say. Amen. Okay, so that was DJ Avery with Stop the Streaming, and now this is public service announcement. The government, or well, I should say the embassy here, is having a series of activities for our Independence Day that's coming up. I don't know, Akina, if you want to share any of your thoughts on independence right now, but I'm about to share a series of activities that the embassy will be, doing, and we can, let people know in the U.S. what's happening at the embassy. This is our 179th independence anniversary. The U.S. just had a 250th, so that's what. They're 71 years older than us, but hey, I don't think that gap in development is equivalent. So that's another story. But there's a calendar of events that the embassy is involved with or is pushing, starting Friday, July 17th. They say there's a special Independence Day lecture with Ambassador Conte and Joe Mayberry. He was the former deputy chief of mission at the U.S. Embassy. He has done a lot of research on Liberia, and they will be having those discussions. Ambassador Conte, as most people know, he's an intellect, and this discussion should be a riveting discussion on the guy's historical findings about Liberia. And I think there was another flyer that had a little bit more details about what he would be talking about. I'll see if I can find it and come to it in a second. Then on Sunday the 19th, you all know we can do anything with our prayer and giving thanks for our. So that will be at 4 p.m. It will be at the Harvest International Church. That's in Maryland, Bachelor Forest Road. I believe that's Reverend Darlington Johnson Church, and the contact is Reverend Oliver Lloyd. So these events are for Liberians and our friends. Then on Wednesday, July 22nd, there's a diplomatic cocktail reception. Ambassador Conte and his wife will be hosting a cocktail reception where they will invite members of the U.S. Diplomatic Corps. They will invite some Liberians and some other foreign dignitaries that will be there. And it's at St. Sophia Greek Orthodox Cathedral Atrium Hall. That's in Washington, D.C. Actually, 2815 36th Street, Northwest Washington, D.C. That's the northern side of D.C. So on the northwest side, that event will be there. Then on Friday, we'll have the Islamic intercessory prayers and Thanksgiving for the nation. We had the Christian Peace on Sunday. The Muslim Peace is on Friday, July 24th at the Philadelphia Masjid, and that's in Philadelphia. So you see, everything is not limited to just the DC area, but they are actually, holding activities outside of the DC metro area in the Philadelphia area, and the Mukhtar Sharif is the contact for that one. Then on Saturday, the real day, Liberia's Um, Independence Day celebration and cultural extravaganza will be at the grounds of the embassy. That's 5201 16th Street, Northwest Washington, D.C. And it's always been a wonderful event. A lot of people come out to attend it, and I think it's worth attendance if you're in the DC metro area. I think it's something you should come. There's a lot of booths. People cook and bring the food out there. It's from 9 o'clock in the morning all the way to 9 p.m. at night, and sometimes even later than that. I know there has been some wonderful music played there. People can really see, because some booths are business booths, and if you got interest in certain things, that's an opportunity to connect. Now this year they got Children's Corner, which is an added feature that will be dedicated to children's recreation. Will be a safe area, because sometimes the kids come, they can't really play. The adults are all over the place and they're just working with the parents. But this time now it's an opportunity for them to have fun. Then
That would be great. That would be very good.
yeah, it will be. Then on July 26th itself, on Sunday, that's when you'll have the sports day and the youth barbecue, and that's going to be at the Northwestern High School, 700 Adelphi Road in Hyattsville, Maryland. The ambassador will be there. There will be Byron IE game. The Liberian community leaders and the youth in the community will all be there, and people from outside, close areas that can drive, or some people who have targeted reasons to be there will be there. And so it should be a very wonderful event. Then the Liberian Community Association in the DMV area, on Saturday, August 8th, we have an honoring program. So this is great because it means there's no real conflict in terms of the activities, because usually they have that honoring program or Independence Day ball, right the day of the independence celebration, which sometimes people are tired and stuff and attendance can be down. But if you can support the Liberian community with the 179th Independence Day ball, which will also be honoring individuals and organizations who have supported Liberia, who have supported the Liberia diaspora community, that would be great. Mr. Sebastian Tikla, he's the lead organizer. He is the president for the Liberian Association here, and the event will be at the Ukrainian Hall. That's 15100 New Hampshire Avenue, all the way up New Hampshire Avenue in Silver Spring. So those are the activities for the Independence Day, our Independence Day celebration. As you can see, is a wide range of activities from Friday, July 17th, all the way to August 8th. So, hopefully those who are in the area can participate and make it a fun thing. Yeah. So we got pretty good 30 minutes to go. In that 30 minutes, we can talk about the impact of the printing and digitalization on businesses, and then we can, put a little bit of time into the Côte d'Ivoire experience with the funding for the development plan from 2026 to 2030. See what they did, and maybe see how we can extract some experiences from that. So,
Yeah, let's jump into that that document you sent me regarding La Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, to our song.
Before we talk about the impact on business, okay, we can do that.
Yeah. I mean, July 26th is our Independence Day. I mean, every part of every Liberian community in every state across, from New York to California, Texas to Canada, will have events. And then our embassy in Washington, D.C. will be having its own share of events. Very important. I'm not downplaying it. Even here in Houston, we're going to be having events.
I was talking about the impact on businesses from the printing, digitalization.
Okay, you've gone away from the 26 now.
Yeah, 26 is done. We're not moving off the screen.
Let's move it off the screen. So,
is it still on the screen? I thought I stopped sharing. No, I stopped sharing. People need to but we got a good comment here from somebody. Made in Liberia or mad in Liberia. Oh man, I hope you're not mad. and you got our, is that our hippopotamus logo? Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, they made
But
really
Matt,
mad.
I believe the problem with our notes is more than the quality of the paper. It's a lot to do with the handling. People
There
borrow
you go.
money, people handle meat and fish, and money. The money stinks. Look, there's a
Yeah,
valid point this person is making.
that very valid point. Very
And
valid point.
I
And
don't
like
know, because you know, by the time people, and so even if you're handing somebody a bill, right? If that bill is open, the way they grab the money from you, they squeeze the money right away. I don't know why that is. It's like sometimes they even nearly won't jack your finger off that you're giving them the money, especially the people in the street if you're giving them money. So
yes.
I don't know what it is. Is that desperation or whatever? But Matt in Liberia, your point is very solid. People do boil off the
No,
money. The money is mixed with all kind of stuff. Sometimes they send on that money, you don't want to touch it. Some people wear gloves because they don't want to touch the money. And yes, that money and it gets thick and it's just ugly. Even counting that money can be so difficult sometimes. So,
let me expand on something from what Matt in Liberia is saying. When you think back, right, when you reflect on the COVID-19 and how it was transmitted and everything else,
mhm,
and you bring this whole issue of handling physical notes across a population like Liberia, then you add into there where he talks about people ball up the money, people handle meat and fish, right, in the marketplace where you know that most of these locations are unsanitary environments where bacteria and all kinds of things are very, very prevalent. Okay. So when you take that money, put it in your pocket, and then you handle that money, and then you rub your nose and you shake somebody else's hand, you're just part of the whole ecosystem of transmitting of sicknesses, illnesses, disease, whatever it is. That's why digitization is so important. So there's a health aspect to digitization. That's all the more reason why we need to do an overly aggressive marketing, advertising, and education campaign all across the different political subdivisions in this country as it relates to how important it is, the benefits of digitalization in our economy with regards to our currency, with regards to business. Because again, there was something you mentioned earlier that because we operate on a cash-based economy, government is not really tracking all of this tax revenue. Remember, you mentioned that in your introduction on this printing of the money. So if you really list or you quantify or you identify or you numerically uh, put the points to the benefits of digitalization, you will see that from the health perspective, that's one. Number two would be tax revenue accountability. You see, tax revenue accountability or tax revenue identification, tax revenue better control, and things like that. Those are all reasons why digitization should be one of the focus areas for the growth. I mean, for the advancement of this new currency that will be the new notes that will be printed. We need to truly invest in digitization, the health aspect as well.
no, but I mean,
Digitization.
take for example, if even if the government were getting 2 cents on every ride, I mean, if you look at your Uber bill, you see the taxes, right? The state tax, maybe the city tax and the country tax, the federal tax.
Okay,
So
fine. That's digitization. That's
yeah,
digitization.
exactly,
That's
exactly.
digitization.
So
That's
government,
digitization.
it's in government interest to really push for digitization so that
That's
every
exactly right.
transaction is taxable and understood. Then we get a better feeling for what our economy
That's
really is.
exactly right.
Because with
Really
the
is. Yes.
cash handling, it's limited. A lot of cash transactions are going on that for nowhere, especially with a
Yes.
huge informal economy that we have. we can't formalize the economy like that or those different subsectors if we don't try to push for digitalization.
If you look at, right, if you look at, I mean, you and I, quote unquote, as wise, I wouldn't say as old as we are, as wise as we are.
Oh man,
They
instead of age, we're old.
as old as we are. The market, the Liberian market, as market with the association, you look at the marketplaces in every political subdivision of our country, plays a major transactional part of that country's economy, and it plays a major part of our local economy, of our national economy. Let me put it that way. Just the marketplace, the marketplace. Look at how much
What do you think hand to mouth means? By the time you get that money, you're gonna spend it on food. That's the
you're going to
one
spend it on.
thing everybody got to do. That's why one
Yeah.
of my friends is making an argument that most of the capital flight
Mhm.
is going across the borders to the places where we're buying food from because we're not growing the food yet. You
Well,
know,
but again, I mean, okay, do you know that if you go to MTN's website now, you can now MTN, and I believe Orange has also followed suit. You can now use MTN for cross-border digitization to move money from Liberia into Guinea, into wherever there's MTN within the ECOWAS sub-region. So
yes,
again, we're losing from that. We're losing from that. So I mean, the private companies, again, like I said, the two biggest banks in Liberia, folks, is not UBA, it's not Echo Bank, it's not GT Bank, it's not LBDI. No, it's Lone Star, MTN, and it's Orange. And these guys, being public corporations, they recognize that digitization, mobile money, just like Zelle and Cash App, or that's where their real profitability is, moving money and generating a revenue percentage on how much you move within the local economy and not cross border. So we as a country, we as a nation, as a government must understand this, that we play a major role, like we talked about couple of weeks ago. Liberia is part of the ECOWAS or the Minor River Union ecosystem, and then the Minor River Union ecosystem is part of the ECOWAS ecosystem. And we need to start thinking from that mindset. So when you're talking about bringing new bills and you're talking about what Ivory Coast is doing with regards to how they were able to get the commitment and the pledges for $80 billion for their long-term development planning, people looked at that and saw the different aspects of that plan and say, you know what, I'm going to invest in that. I'm going to invest in that. You see,
right.
and they reap the benefits of it.
Yeah, and so people got to understand. Look, the advantages of going digital is just huge, right? Because it's instant. Soon you click, you hit that send, that money is gone. That payment is in that person's account. That transfer to you is received. So handling costs decrease, right? Then you have data. Everything is data. Everything is data driven. You can really dissect the economy now and know what will pay for food crops, what happened here with tree crops, what happened here with building materials, everything can be broken down. Then once people have a record of paying, then credit scoring is easy. You can easily build that credit application like we have done. We build a credit application, but we can't use it because the government say they got one and they recognize one other a group to do credit scoring. But then you have an inventory of finance, right? Then the business people can start really having access to capital, building their own credit profile and everything like that. So the government gives double. They reduce the impact from paper money, or the negative aspect of paper money. Yes, there will still be some paper money circulation, but will be limited because most transactions will be digital, right? And then they're creating this wave of digitalization and formalizing different sectors because now they can visibly see into those sectors.
Yes, the data acquisition, the data would tell the story. In fact, if you think about it, Alva, if you sent money home over the past, 2, 3, or 4 months, you notice that Sendwave has updated their app. They show you a little graph or little, point by point process of how the money is moving and the money arrives. It never used to be on the app before.
Right.
It never used to be on the app before. So, and with MTN knowing where each of these mobile phones are receiving this money through their BTS, what we call their BTS, their tower sites and their infrastructure, that data can tell you, it would tell you the story where more money from the Liberian diaspora is going, whether, Monrovia, Buchanan, Ganta, Banga, Kakata. And again, if you look at where all these people who are the importers, the traders, the guys who are opening convenience stores and places like that, they know they're following that data. They're following it because if more money is being received in Buchanan, that means there's more disposable income, like you say, hand to mouth. People
And
receive that money
that's
and it
what
goes right to
analytics
the
is
bank.
all about. Once you get a
Exactly
data,
right.
you can analyze it anyway and be able to use it to your economic
To use
advantage.
it to your advantage. That's
That's why
exactly right.
people
That's
pay for
exactly
data,
right.
premium price for data. So yeah. So just advise the government. We're not saying digitization is the only solution, is the only thing, but it will really help our economy if they push for it. Yeah, like within the next 10 years, have a clear plan, a clear path towards full digitization. It will be very critical for the development of our economy. So yeah, so now we got another 15, maximum 20 minutes here. Let's talk about Ivory Coast, the Côte d'Ivoire. Okay, and what happened there? Most recently, Ivory Coast had developed their development plan 2026 to 2030. They had a national development plan, and I believe on July 8th, they had a development partners meeting where 47.82 billion CFA were, contributed or pledged towards
Pledge.
the development plan, right? And they are
Mm-hmm.
coming to asking for 20 billion, but they got supposedly a pledge of 80 billion. So that reflects multiple things, right? Um, the trust, the confidence that those global financial institutions have, even maybe some local institutions, in being able to kind of a multiple of 4 times what the Cote d'Ivoire wanted and be able to pledge that amount to them. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, we got our money, come take it, we want you to use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's break it down a little bit because there could be some hype or there could be some truth to that breakdown because every highlight, every headline is not necessarily exactly what it is. So we
Exactly. Yeah.
decompose that number and we'll share it in a little bit of how the number breaks down. But essentially, when Ivory Coast organized that consultative group, they already had 90% of the plan and financing need. It was already mapped before the meeting. So they already knew where they were. They just needed 8.9% of that requirement. That was what they needed, right? So sometimes you have a vision,
Mm-hmm.
you have to convince people about your vision. But in this case, we're not trying to convince the investors or the vision. They were just saying this is a small portion. We are doing 91.1% of this, whatever it was, the total billion, the 200 billion for the development. We're doing 91.1%. We want you all to come and put in that one. So that's why the pledges, the response was very high because they look at it and say, you already invested in this process, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep. Yep. How vested are you? If this is your own thing, how much of your own money have you put at stake? Have you put at stake on this thing? And that demonstrates your commitment, your belief in what it is you're doing.
And we
Because you
thought
can't
we
say you want to do
were
this,
already.
then you put no money. then you put no money, but you want everybody else to put their money in it. But if you
Exactly.
believe it, then why your money's not there?
So they have some infrastructure stuff in place that we don't have. The scale of the economy is huge. The domestic revenue mobilization is way better than ours, right? Then they have a bond market in place. The credit structure is in place. Yes, the leftovers from the colonization period, impact and benefits them. But at the same time, they themselves as a nation have been visionary and progressive in terms of developing the country.
And progressive. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
When they talk about Côte d'Ivoire, it's all praise. And then more recently, the development has been expanding, So we got to look at what they did, right? So if we look at
don't forget to also add that they're oil and gas producer. They're oil and gas. Oil and gas producer. The energy infrastructure is also very, very important. They're agro-based economy, so they can always expand that agro-based economy. Their agro-processing value addition is also expanding as a result of the agro-based side of it as well. So they have some very, very good metrics that they use to that and they have a very, very large diaspora in francophone countries, especially in France, that are migrating and coming back home and taking advantage of all of this growth and economic expansion. You see, so all of those things are very, very important. Very, very important.
So if we look at this is CFA in billions of dollars, right?
The billions of CFA.
Yeah. So basically, that 114 trillion CFAs was their target, right?
I agree.
And they expected 80 billion from the
private sector.
From the private sector, and this is the breakdown side, right? So the is what they actually wanted from the Consultative Group. They wanted 20.3 billion US dollars, which is 11 trillion of their money, right? They are already identified this 7.7 trillion. And this was what was unfunded, 3.3 trillion, right? So they needed that 8.9%. That's what they call the people for, which was 20 billion. But then what they got 80 billion. And that because of where they stood and how attractive an investment their country is. So we have to find a way now as Liberia to see how we can get to that point where we can be an attractive investment to the people out there, where the messaging from our people, our leaders, and people like that implies that we have this confidence going on with the economy. We got certain things in place, and we are ready. We got to show.
If you can please scroll down, put on the screen, share where it says the next section there after where it says the trust architecture, why the money came in. That's the portion that really, really, caught my attention. I really want to kind of read a couple of points from there so everybody can see why the money came in. And both of these things are things that we talk about on this show, but maybe people don't, understand some of these things. But it's a very, very important thing for all of us who are listening in the business community, diaspora community, both in Liberia. We need to think in this integrated way that there's a lot of private money out there that's looking to invest in developing countries, because developing countries have a greater rate of return, infrastructure is needed, young population, so forth and so on. So the first sentence there, your friends framing, right? A credible growth roadmap. A credible growth roadmap. We're talking about that earlier. Two, rigorous fiscal probity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And forward transparency on objectives. This is something we talk about next all the time. KPIs, key performance indexes, and deliverable and delivery timelines. You got to have deliverables, and you got to have a timeline, and you got to have KPIs. Is correct but incomplete. Each of those attributes was made legible to investors through what? Specific third-party verifiable signals accumulated over years. You talk about all of this all the time. Data. The data will point, it will tell the story, and the sound bites that drove interest were compressions of audited facts. There's got to be a narrative, there's got to be a plan, and you've got to market this plan and effectively articulate and present the plan so people can buy into it. And this plan must have a verifiable data.
Yep.
Verifiable data.
1 year. And sometimes people can say Liberia doesn't have data.
That's not true.
Exactly. We do have data, we just don't have it in presentation format. We don't have it in an analyzed format that people can succinctly and clearly come and just look at that glimpse and say, oh, these are our data, this is our data right here. This is how trade is trending. This is how this is trending. But we have collected a lot of data. It just that people collect it, put in Excel spreadsheets, and they sit there, as opposed to putting it in international standard format and displaying it on a website. And that's what Listis is supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and using that data, because again, you talk about digitization. You go back to what these guys talked about here, right? Look at the look at the last one, narrative discipline. A single repeatable strategic sentence.
And everybody's saying that. Everybody, every aspect of government, that's the focus. If our goal is upper middle income, or let's say we want to just get to middle income, like I think in the what do you call it? Agenda for AFT, Agenda for Transformation. They were talking about us, getting to middle income status. So if you stick with that, and all this, like say here, upper middle income status by 2030 through industrialization, your path development and private sector led
investment deployed consistently across every minister, every document, and every popular speech for years. Consistency, being deliberate, being intentional, being purposeful, and being consistent in the messaging. The vacuum you identify in Liberia is precisely the absence of this, not a shortage of documents, but the absence of one disciplined, evidence-backed story that every official tells identically.
And that's where the messaging is. Everybody got to be with the message. Some people go to international settings, they don't even know what the government message is.
No.
So
come to think of it, let me get sorry for doing this. You know what the messaging is for Liberia? Every Liberian minister, past, present, and probably future, they got one message. We've been through 20 years civil war. There's been a reduction in capacity. We got gap. The education system was broken. All our infrastructure. That negative messaging is consistent with each of them. Every government minister, you ask them today, what is the messaging? We went through 20 years civil war. Everything was destroyed. We have a competency gap. We got education gap. But you forget to count the years. Ellen was in office for 12 years. We were there for 6 years. 6 times 3, that's 18.
I mean, I would never
18.
discount the impact of the war,
I'm
the
not
civil war,
discounting. I'm not
especially
discounting.
since the two successive governments have not tried to really cancel out that impact by doing
That's
what is
exactly right.
right and establishing, especially for our young people, putting them on the right path to success. That has not been our focus, okay? So
And investing
rebuilding
in
our
those
moral
areas. Yeah.
fabric,
And
rebuilding
yes.
our economy, rebuilding how we interact with one another, all those things got to be led from the top.
And it
And
not only led,
telling government to start that, it didn't happen. Definitely, we are government was not going to do it. No
not,
idea.
not only led from the top, but it must be strategically and tactically done from the top.
Totally
You
agree.
see, yes, strategically and tactically. Look at the country today. At any event on any soccer field, you go to Independence Park, you go to SKD Complex, you go to any soccer stadium, you look at the population of the people at any event, the overwhelming majority of them, 35 and younger. This is our population. Ivory Coast is no different. But what are they doing? They are strict. I mean, you look at the document, look what the guy said. Value addition in the agriculture sector, value addition. Every time you add value to pineapples, for example, you create more jobs. You bring equipment in to process the pineapples. You got to hire technically competent people that graduate from vocational training schools and colleges and universities in the electrical, electronics area, mechanical area to work on these machines. These are higher paying jobs. You bring in packaging machine. You can't just take some guy off the street to come and work on your machine. You need technically competent people. So there's a whole thinking that surrounds that. And then when you look at what they say about medium income by 2030, how do you think you're going to get there? By value addition, industrialization, because all of these people you're paying to feed the ecosystem from this perspective, they're going to be at medium income. And then the more medium income people you have in the population, there's going to be more disposable income to spend. And that's where your economic growth and job creation and economic expansion and your tax base takes place.
No question.
So for some reason on our side, we don't have a positive narrative for growth. We don't have a positive narrative for industrialization. We don't have a positive narrative for the ecosystem, which is our economy and its intricate part, and how one part affects the other. That way of thinking that we need to develop to lead this thing strategically and tactically is just not there. It's just not there. And we're not willing to make the investment of our own money, but we want everybody else's money to come in, and then we don't put any money into it at all. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
Right. So the first phase, from our perspective, is to really repair our ledger, right? We got to fix some things, whether it's the debt statistics and understanding what they really
Yeah.
mean, you know, um, stay clear of arrears. We got to, these reviews got to be clean, right? Because if you look at the last review they did, I believe they said only 2 out of 10. Yeah, right here, the structural reform delivery. So at the
Only
latest,
2 out of 10 applicable structural benchmarks were met on time, with 4 implemented late. So who never came to work? Who never checked their email?
that's what
Was
you
their
gotta,
light on
you
or
gotta
the
go look
light
at the
was off?
IMF report. You gotta go look at the IMF report to find that out. But yeah, so there's a lot of
Indicative
work to
targets
do.
were missed, including non-accumulation of domestic arrears. A waiver was required for a continuous performance criterion on external arrears. Investors Red program reviews a pattern of waivers and missed benchmark is the opposite of a 94% execution narrative.
Right. So Cote
So,
d'Ivoire has that 94% execution narrative. If you're doing 2 out of 10, that's 20 in this particular instance and the structural reform. At 20. If you do full late at 40%. So 40% not passing nowhere, right? Some places 60%, 65% are passing, but they ain't reached there. So that's a failure. We got to look at these things in a way that can bring success. We got to work towards it. Everybody got to have that same messaging and everything like that. But every good thing must come to an end. We can reinvent the world. We can just keep pushing for our little corner in Liberia, sharing information, and hopefully sometimes we'll reach to the right ears, and they will want to engage further, or they will take it and run with it. It's up to them. But we have an opportunity. We can do some of those things other countries are doing. We just, like you said, need to be strategic, have a plan that can be that's implementable, and be able to move our country forward. But that's the goal, folks. That's the goal. We need to.
And we've got to staff to the plan. You don't just have a plan, get off SM Brussels and start hiring people from the airport. You got to staff to the plan.
Yeah.
You just staff up.
It's work. Look, identifying the right people to work for you is work. I was talking to one of my friends just to get a house made for his daughter. He had 80 interviews. 80.
Yeah.
He said he talked to 80 women. So it's important that you put in time, due diligence to get the results you want. And sometimes our people don't want to work. People don't want to put in the effort. But we'll keep trying.
I think what it is, Ava, is habits are very, very hard to depart from. And when we get home, we always try to find shortcuts because familiarity sometimes is a very, very bad thing. You come home as a Liberian from the diaspora, you got 150K, you say you want to open up a cyber cafe, and next thing you fail to recognize that this is your money. This is your hard-earned money. The business plan, the strategy, and everything else, like you said, you're gonna have to interviewing the right people because you want a return on your investment. You want a return on your investment. So you're going to have to look at it from a perspective that, what, I'm an investor. Forget about the fact that you are a Liberian. No. I will end with this. David Oyedepo made one. I will listen to one of his teachings one day. And he said, people do not fail tests because they don't know anything. No. They fail the test because they just don't know enough. 70 is the passing grade. You got 40. You got some, but you didn't get enough. 70 is the passing grade. You got 50. No, my man, you failed. Not because you didn't know anything, but the one you knew was just not enough to pass.
Yeah, you don't know enough to make it happen. Yep.
You don't know enough to make it happen. That's it.
We say thank you to our listeners and viewers. Hopefully, we can resolve our technical issue with Akina next week. But we'll start next week. We'll do an overview of the different sectors, the key sectors in Liberia. And the goal is to say who owns these sectors. We keep talking about we want Liberians involved in the economy, Liberians involved in the economy, but we get there and we're not involved. Look, we're not involved. Not at the level we should be anyway. So, it's not enough. That's a good phrase with me. My man, you try over. It's not enough.
It's not enough to pass.
We need everybody to do more. Everybody to contribute more. Everybody to participate more. Everybody to be more committed. So there's a lot more that need to come from all of us for us to make this thing successful. But we appreciate it to our folks in Kakata in Magibi County. Thank you for pushing the show out. We hope next week. No, I think it's a couple more weeks for the technical issue to be resolved in Monrovia for us to be, how should I say, programming from Monrovia, broadcasting from Monrovia. But if you're out there and you have, some community radio stations that want to participate in this, we are free to get syndicated with them. We're looking at 1 or 2 other opportunities. There's a radio station in Harper That should be, I think, 92.1. That's probably broadcasting in Monrovia across the entire country. We're trying to see if we can build a relationship there, and hopefully,
I would get, Buchanan, Abidjan. I would get with what's his name? What's the young man there? Gosh, getting wise is always a challenging thing. I just had a brain freeze. I
yeah,
would get with him at Abidjan today and see if we can start syndicating out of there starting next week, and that would be good. And then to anyone who's listening, any radio, any public radio, private radio station across whatever geographical area of Liberia, if you want to syndicate our show because it's so educational and political, reach out to myself, reach out to Alva on WhatsApp, by email, in any way, shape, or form, and we will be more than happy to link you guys to rebroadcast the show. Okay, we want to get business talk moving into more areas to get more people involved. Okay.
okay,
Want to
wonderful.
closing statements?
So thank you for this, for viewing today, and the comments made. Orlando Kringa, thank you for being supportive in terms of good educational sharing. We'll continue to do that as much as we can, and we look forward to our next show. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.